Welcome to r/Entitledparents, where we have parents so entitled that it actually drives them to murder. A little backstory. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer of the nasal cavity, stage 2. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully benign. Edit, people have pointed out I formulated this wrong. By benign, I wanted to shorten the fact it still did not spread into other tissue, thus it was still contained, which is what I thought the word meant. I apologize for my gaps in knowledge. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to make it smaller. Thanks to the chemo, I had severe alopecia, hair loss, which made most of my hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes fall out. At some point, I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead neo-Nazi. I'm 6'4" and pretty muscular, so I thought people would assume. So once, after a long chemo session in the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to where I live, so I took that one only to see it was absolutely packed. I felt awful thanks to the chemo, so I asked a middle-aged dude to let me sit. He was very understanding and gave me his spot without complaining. If you're reading this, thanks bro. 2 stops later, enter Entitled Mother, a lovely whale with an "I demand a parley with the CEO" haircut and a 12-some-year-old kid. It took her roughly 5 seconds to see the bus was packed, start looking for a free seat, spot me, and start marching, or in her case, trying to fit in the aisle between the seats while shoving others aside, to me. When I saw her, I knew I was screwed. She then stood next to me and decided to talk to me. This is the conversation that followed. "Hey, could you let my kid sit down?" You mean me? Who else?" "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way from the hospital and..." "So are we." Nonsense, the stop was a few kilometers away from the hospital. "My boy just broke his leg and we're coming straight from the ER. Her kid was standing next to her without any support, clearly embarrassed. "He's standing next to you completely fine." "Look here, boy." I am 21 years old. "My kid deserves to sit down." "Look, madam, I'm sorry, but I just got back from a chemo session in the hospital and I need to sit down and rest." I then moved my wig a bit to let her see my bald head. Entitled Mother then straight up started yelling in my face. "Stop making excuses and get off the freaking seat, you freaking skinhead piece of trash." At this point, I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to make his mother stop and we had the attention of the whole bus. She then grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall off. Now enter old gentleman, my savior. "Will you shut the F up, you dumb cow?" "Who do you think you're talking to?" With an ice-cold voice. "Stop assaulting other passengers or I will be forced to step in." Also, every dumb moron could see that the dude has cancer. "No, he's just a freaking skinhead." "He's got no eyebrows, you moron." Seems like that really offended Entitled Mom because she spun around on the spot and threw a falcon punch in the old gentleman's face. I was shocked and in disbelief. The whole bus was flabbergasted and the kid probably wished he'd never been born. Old gentleman then said something unbelievable and a golden sweet karma moment followed. Okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer. You're in deep trouble, lady. Old gentleman then pulled out a badge and told her to stay where she was. Then he pulled out his phone, called someone, and told her that she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. Old gentleman was a bloody cop. At this point, Entitled Mom was as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, so she decided she'd make a run for it, but other passengers blocked her way. She then also got charged with resisting arrest thanks to this. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for the Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid. Entitled Kid told me he was sorry for his mother's behavior and I felt really sorry for the kid. He wasn't a bad child, but his mother was a hellspawn. Old gentleman then talked to me and asked me if I wanted to press charges, to which I gladly said yes. Took a statement and thankfully was kind enough to let me solve everything on the phone, so I didn't have to come to the police station for questioning. In the end, Entitled Mom got some jail time. I think it was a few months and some community service. I, in return, got a good story to tell and the sweet taste of instant karma. Right now, I'm riding the same bus home as I just got back home from the hospital after a checkup, which reminded me of this. A friend who's sitting next to me told me I should post it here. He, as much as myself, also couldn't believe that such people existed, but it seems I proved it to him. I should also note that the surgery went well. I was declared cancer-free in November and my hair is slowly returning. Also, I don't need to wear a wig anymore. The thing I can't understand is, if she thought this guy was a skinhead, why on earth would she talk to him like that? Coming up to a muscular skinhead and yelling into his face seems like the fastest way to get a one-way ticket to a curb stomp. Some backstory. I'm in a D&D group with a couple of friends from nearby, and one of the other members of the group was a kid who was about 15 years old. He's a really sweet kid, likes helping other people out, and he's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. He also has cancer in both of his lungs. He's from a religious family that basically forces him to act pure while he's in their sight. The mom is Westboro Baptist Church level rabid, and as a quick aside, for those of you who don't know, that church is the church where the people stand outside of like funerals with the signs that say God hates the F word. While the dad is just a sensible person who just tries to get him to be a good kid. When he's out of sight of his parents, he just does normal teen stuff. Because of his mom, the only books he was allowed to own were Christian books and Bibles. He joined our group mainly as a way to escape his home life and his mom. A couple of weeks ago, the cancer in his lungs started to get to him, so he was taken to a hospital by his parents. He contacted me about this a day after he was taken to the hospital, stating that he wanted a monster manual as his last wish, stating that he was tired of reading the same things. I bought him the book from Barnes & Noble, but considering that he's a dying teen, I got him Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes stacked on top of that. The next day, which was his birthday, he was still in the hospital, so I brought him the books as a gift. After he blew out the candles, we had cake and he started opening gifts. Mine was the first to be opened. Seeing what they were, he immediately got this humongous grin on his face and hugged me. Meanwhile, his mom stared down at the books with a look of pure disgust, with her husband staring at her with this wary look in his eyes. She picks up one of the books and relights one of the candles and holds the damn book over it to try and set it on fire. I managed to stop her and demand, "What the F are you doing? He asked me to get these books and I'm not going to let you take them away." His mom simply stared me down and said something along the lines of the book being sinful, satanic, and full of evil, and that her son has no business with them. I retort and say that her son can read what he wants and that she shouldn't have to force him to be Christian. She starts getting red in the face and yelling at me about essentially forcing children to believe in God from a young age. I state that I'm a Baptist, which I actually am, and say that faith in God is a matter between God and the individual. She turns red all over and actively starts to try and destroy the books, with me, my friend, and her husband trying to stop her. At one point I shouted, "Would God want you to do this? To restrict your dying son's freedom of expression?" right in her face. This just sets her freaking ablaze. She tosses the books aside and starts trying to strangle her son, and her husband calls security immediately when she does this. Security gets here within about a minute or two of us trying to pry entitled mom off her son and drag her away, with her shouting that we're all catamites to the devil. Both her husband and my friend charged her with child abuse, assault, and attempted murder. Trial's still going, and I'll try to update this post as soon as the trial goes on. Then the original poster added a couple of updates that are not interesting, basically just thanking people for Reddit gold and karma. Then we get on to the interesting edit, Edit 4. Trial was almost a disaster. Me, him, and her husband all prosecuted against her. The moment she saw us, she tried to tackle us, shouting something about divine retribution, but the officers restrained her. During this whole thing, she kept pinning the blame on me and him, calling us corrupted by sin. Needless to say, she was pronounced guilty of all 3 charges that I mentioned earlier. The moment she heard this, she went ape and tried to attack the judge, but officers tased her to the floor. Now she'll be serving for 20 years for the other 3 charges and 10 more on top of assaulting a court official. Thank you all for the support you guys gave us. I'm sorry guys, but this was not an entitled parent. Let me try this again. Welcome to r/psychotic parents, where parents would rather murder their children and set fire to a hospital than have someone disagree with them. Backstory: I live in a middle upper class neighborhood. Everyone is very friendly and it's right next to a school. My neighborhood is in the east side of Pennsylvania, and if anyone lives there, you will know about the snow. We got about 6 inches of snow, so of course school was canceled. This isn't important until later, but I also have a service dog. I woke up at about 7 a.m. and decided to go outside and play with my dog. We were having fun running around when I noticed my neighbor trying to get in his car. Now, I don't know what happened and it's not my business, but my neighbor is wheelchair bound. He drives his car with those special handles you attach to the pedals. Anyway, I noticed him trying and failing to get through the 6 inches of snow on his driveway, so I decided to help him out. I went to my shed, grabbed a shovel and some rock salt. I walked over and offered to shovel his driveway so he could go wherever he needs to be. My neighbor accepted and thanked me for being so helpful, then he went back inside. Over the course of the next 45 to 60 minutes, I shoveled his driveway and salted it. My dog sat at the edge the whole time, ready for action like the good girl she is. After I was done, I informed my neighbor, who thanked me and started walking away. Suddenly, the clouds became dark and it started storming. Thunder and lightning everywhere. The devil had arrived. Not really. The entitled mom was walking down the street and noticed me while I was finishing up. Then she decided to strike. Dun dun dun! Hey, I noticed you shoveled neighbor's driveway and I was wondering if you could shovel mine. Sure, I'll do it for $10. But you shoveled his driveway for free. If you haven't noticed, he can't move his legs or shovel the driveway himself. Well, I have children and I need to drive to the store to feed them. Well, what's stopping you from shoveling? You seem perfectly fine to me. Can't you just help out a mother? Give me $10 and I will. You effing millennials have no respect for anyone. I am a hardworking mother and you have no right to refuse what I tell you to do. This entitled parent had the audacity to try to grab my arm and try to pull me. I yank my arm away. What the F is wrong with you? Get away from me. My dog, although on the job, is very protective of me. At this point, she stands in front of me and growls at the lady. Your dog is crazy. She's going to attack me. You need to put down that monster. By the way, here is my little monster. See how vicious and dangerous she is? I yell, sick 'em, girl. The dog lets out a single bark, not even that scary. The entitled parent runs for her effing life. I take off the dog's vest so she's not on duty and throw a stick near entitled parent. She doesn't see it. Get it, girl! Dog takes off towards the stick. Entitled parent turns around and a look of sheer terror fills her face as she sees my dog barreling towards her. I'm laughing my ass off. I went home after that and gave her extra Treatos and pats for doing a big protect. Hope everyone near me has a wonderful snow day. I'm actually going to agree with the entitled parent on this. I can't believe how entitled you millennials are that you would actually watch this video and not subscribe. Your generation is absolutely unbelievable. So I teach 8th grade, and a few months ago I had a female student come up to me in private and tell me that a male student in her class was sexually harassing her. She shows me text messages that he has sent her detailing highly graphic sexual things he wants to do to her, and tells me some of the things he said to her when they are in the halls. She tells me that she has asked him to stop repeatedly, but he's still doing it, and she wants me to help keep him away from her in my class. So before I file a report to have guidance and admin investigate the issue, I spend a class period keeping a close eye on the two of them to see if I can confirm or deny anything she's saying. Once I'm looking for it, I observe the male student doing things like licking his lips at her from the other side of the room, hovering around her, and finding reasons to walk past her desk. I personally overhear him make a sexual comment about her to another student. Based on what I've seen, I go ahead with referring the boy to admin for sexual harassment and make contact with parents of both students to inform them that the issue will be investigated by the school and possible disciplinary action will be taken. I don't make direct contact with the boy's mother, but I leave her a voicemail and ask that she call me back. The next day, I'm in my planning period and I get a call from the office saying that there's a parent here for a meeting. Now, our policy is that parent meetings must be scheduled in advance and logged with the office. I don't have any meetings scheduled today, but I have time, so I decide to go and see what's up. It turns out to be the male student's mother in the office. She very nicely asks if we can talk face to face about what's going on, and for some dumb reason I agree, even though usually we like to have another teacher or staff member present for meetings. So we go in a conference room and I go over the allegations, avoiding names. I tell her that a female student has accused her son of sexual harassment, and I saw enough evidence in class to refer it to the office for investigation. Now, what exactly did you hear? Because I know my son. He would never harass a girl. He might say something stupid that got taken the wrong way, but that's just not who he is. So what exactly did you hear him say? I want to know what this girl is saying about him. I saw him licking his lips at her and overheard him say to another boy that he wanted to ride that butt all night. What do you mean licking his lips? He gets chapped lips. He might not be doing it to harass some girl. She can't just say things about him and try to ruin his life. I know my son, and he is not that kind of person, no matter what some girl says. Well, admin and guidance are going to investigate, and based on what they find, they'll be in touch with you. So wait, what did you tell them? You can't just go and say my son is harassing girls based on what one person says. He's already been suspended twice, and now you're going to get him expelled just because some girl wants to get him in trouble for no reason? Now I'm thinking, why did I do this? Mom is getting worked up, I have no one else there, and my next class starts soon. I repeat that I just reported the things the girl said and the things I saw, and that it'll be investigated. I reiterate that I'm not the one making any final decision, and if she has an issue, she needs to talk to the principal. Well, principal hates my son. She's not going to listen. You need to go and tell them that this is all nonsense. You saw him licking his lips because they were chapped. I'm not going to have all this harassment BS. Again, if you have an issue, I'm not the one to talk to. I just reported what I saw. They'll look into it. But you didn't see anything, and you need to tell them that. I'm telling you, I know my son, and you've got this all wrong. If he gets expelled because you don't know what you saw, it's going to be your fault. I eventually talk her down enough to get her to leave. I report to admin that parent is hostile about the accusations and go on about my day. They end up investigating and finding hard evidence that he was actually sexually harassing 3 different girls. Boy got expelled. I love it that by the end of this video, a mother trying to cover up her child's obvious sexual harassment seems like small potatoes compared to the other entitled parents we've seen so far. Hey, at least she didn't try to murder the teacher. That was r/entitled parents. You know, you've really got to admire the courage of these entitled parents. Not even skinheads and cancer victims are safe from their wrath. And these entitled parent videos do really well, but I want to branch out. Let me hear from you down in the comments what other subreddits you want me to cover.